This is, no, I don't need that.
It is on.
It's on.
Sorry.
All right, whenever you guys are ready.
So we didn't talk after the second game of the weekend. so-
Thank you.
I don't usually call them getaway days, so, but I figured you probably didn't want to talk.
Yeah, that was a little rough.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? I mean, that you had such a great game against Wisconsin, and then just that letdown. How do you guys kind of keep that consistent, you know, where you can raise that level no matter what's on the plate?
You know, I don't know the answer to why there was a letdown. I mean, I could speculate on a lot of things. We had a great team meeting afterwards. We redid our SWOT analysis and kind of talked about expectations and whatnot. And I think part of it is that there was a full gym on Thursday night. I think that was Thursday. We played Thursday night. And then on Saturday, there was no one there. I mean, it was maybe 20 people in the gym completely. So, you know, that was part of the letdown, but that's things we can't control. I mean, there will be places we go with no fans at all. And so it's one of those things that in practice we changed. So when I say we had a good week of practice, is that we changed what we did in practice. We started competing right off the bat with no excuses, holding them accountable. Today on the board, we'll write questions, and sometimes it could be funny questions, or other times it's thought-provoking questions. But one of the question today was, when you are competing, what do you do that is different, essentially, is what the question was. And so, and how would I know? And it was interesting looking at the answers that they gave, the responses that they gave, and I even put mine up there. And so it was one of those things, had all the coaches do it as well. And once we started doing our competing in practice, then I called them on the table for it. Because you told me on the board that when you compete, this is what I'm going to see. I don't see it right now. And so it kind of ruffles feathers a little bit, but you have to push them. I mean, they're not going to break. And so it's one of those things. So I don't have the answer, long answer to your question, but I don't have the answer to that, but I know how we solved it.
What is this SWOT analysis that you said you redid?
Strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and I just forgot the T. It's very common in the business world. I'm drawing a blank on a T.
I had to look it up the first time you told me. I knew what it was.
Oh, threats. Sorry, threats. And so, you know, and we talked about it in the beginning. One of the threats was having a lot of people on the team. You know, one of the strengths is we have experienced players. One of the weaknesses, we have inexperienced players. So across the board, you know, but we spent a lot of time on the opportunities, and that's the part that we can control more than anything. So we addressed them.
Where is Sophia at this point? I mean, it just doesn't seem like she's where people would think she should be at this point in her career, a consistently dominant offense.
Right. She was there on Thursday and then wasn't there on Saturday. You know, part of it for her is knowing when the opportunity allows her to take a risk and when it doesn't. So against Wisconsin, you don't have to pump anyone up. They were all ready and excited and, you know, the whole 9 yards. And how do you respond when the block isn't the same? You know, and part of it is learning the consistency of the set. And we spent a lot of time on that. And all the hitters in general, it's not just Sophia. It's like when you can take a risk and when you shouldn't take a risk, when you just have to keep the ball in play. But with international players, that's not something that is common for them. I remember back in the day, Dave would go, you know, you have to go 50% on your swing so we can just go. And she goes, what does that mean, 50%? You know, we either go hard or we don't. And so her mindset is, I'm always going after it. And I had to will her back in and say, hey, so these are opportunities for you to keep it in play, to give us an opportunity versus allowing your frustrations to take place.
At GCU, I heard you yell, keep it in
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, notice I'll say that word a lot.
And is that, I mean, even with Jalen, you know, she'll go,
Ballistic.
yeah, both with serve and with attack. And it's, what is it about them, you think, that pushes them to do that when they know at some points they just need to keep
Playing with their emotions versus with their brain. You know, there's situations you can control and there are situations you can't. And so one of the things that we addressed was with our setting, you know, if the set is not always in a consistent spot, which at no level is the set always in a consistent spot, but if it's one time high, one time low, next time in, out, you don't know what's coming. And so every day, every swing is a surprise to them. yet they're still have the ability to make the situation better if they play with their brain versus their emotions. And so you can't have throwaway plays. And for them, that's them understanding that piece, and was one of the many things that we addressed this week as well.
What have you thought of some of these environments? I mean, obviously you go to Wisconsin, I mean, it's crazy there. We saw 90,000 in Nebraska recently. I mean, what are your thoughts on just some of these environments so far?
I think it's exciting. I think everyone is really behind women's sports right now for whatever the reason. I think everywhere I go, people are like, Rita, we're coming to watch you play. And I'm like, okay, I don't play, but I'm a coach. But we're coming to support you. And so I feel the energy here. I don't, why else would we sell over 800 season tickets? You know, so people are on board and they're excited. But I think in the society that we live in, people want to latch on to something. I want to be a part of what took place. It was no different at Grand Canyon. Their first night, it was packed. We were expecting that crowd, that environment for our match, and it didn't happen for whatever the reason is. And so it's just one of those things. We need to take it and run with it versus saying, okay, we're just complacent that it's actually taking place. Let's run with it and let's take advantage of it while the movement is still going.
Would you ever consider or think about maybe trying to do an outside game, you know, at the stadium here, if that's something you guys might?
No, it never entered my mind. Part of it is partly because you can't control the weather here. I mean, the worst thing could happen is you're playing out there in the sun and the heat and have a heat stroke. You know, you don't want that to happen. But our community, I think the community would come out, but we wouldn't draw that much. For the various reasons, the heat and, you know, just the elements that go behind it and putting it all together. So, no, I wouldn't do that.
So this is final week before Pac-12. What do you want to see this week, and what do you have to see this week to feel like you're ready to go into Pac-12?
I want to see consistency. I want to see us compete with our voices, with our emotions, with our bodies, and be willing to take a risk at the right opportunities. You know, we talk about when they attack, and one of the things is if the set is in a good window and you feel like you can go up there and score because there's a hole in the block and you go for it and you make an error, I can digest that. It's when the set is not in a good window or your feet aren't there or you're not in a position to score and you're trying to make something magical happen. So I want us to be in better control of that, but I want to see us play 3 solid matches. I mean, I don't think it's too much to ask. I think that the competition lends itself to being competitive in each match that we play for various reasons. And I think that we need to be able to put on a good show in front of our crowd because, you know, people want to see this entertainment. You know, I think we're doing everything that the players need to be successful in terms of getting people to want to come, in terms of having the meet and greets, in terms of getting some NIL opportunities. We're doing all of those things. Now, what are you going to do? And it's one of those things I always bring back up to them. I'm like, okay, what more would you like? And it kind of gives them a little guilt trip, and I don't do it for that reason, but if it works, it works.
In terms of the setting, what just kind of break it down to 8 matches?
I'm sorry, one more time.
The setting, break down what you think of your setting so far through 8 matches.
It's been very inconsistent. Anna played well, set well in the Wisconsin match, and then you saw in the Miami match, we went through 3 setters, trying to find someone that can do it. And being a setter is more than just putting the ball up in the window. It's knowing who you should set in each rotation, knowing when you should set that person based on their strength, knowing when you need to set a different person because of the opponents, where their weaknesses and flaws are. And so that's one of the things you only learn through the evolution of doing it. So we've spent time watching film. We've gotten back in the gym because you think last week we didn't have any training at all because of our schedule. So we've gotten in the gym, got extra reps in and breaking things down and putting her in environments where she can understand. But the reality is the other 2 players, well, technically 1, needs to be in a position to push her to make her become better. So it's moving those pieces around as well.
This schedule this year has been maybe a little bit more challenging than past years. The fans are really excited about that. On the other hand,
Right.
the losses. So how do you balance that? I mean, would you rather see, would you rather see good competition, or would you rather see like 11-0?
I always want good competition. I mean, the 11-0 helps us in terms of getting ready for the tournament trying to have the right number of wins within the conference. I think that unless you test the waters, I mean, you don't do it every week, every match type thing, but unless you test, you never know what your team is made of. And so being able to watch them play against Wisconsin gave us the true gauge of what we're capable of doing versus if we played a match against a team that we could just beat, that teaches us nothing, and it doesn't reinforce anything in their minds either. And for me, every opportunity that we step on the floor is a learning opportunity, whether it is how to compete to beat a team that you should beat, whatever that really means, that you should be able to handle, and can you play consistently, or whether it's how do you respond when you're the underdog and you have to go out there and you have to compete and be able to perform, to put on a good display. One of the things I told them for Wisconsin was there was no losing in that situation for us. We're playing the number one team in the nation on their home court. Okay, what else do you want? How do you respond? How do you compete? What do people see? Because that is the video they will look at, because we are a team that people will fear because of what we are capable of doing, which was our word last year. We're so capable, we're capable, we're capable. But we're telling them no one cares anymore about how capable you are. We care about what you're actually displaying and what show you're putting on for everyone during that time.
And Long Beach State, I mean, they've done some things this year.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about them, and how, what have they been able to do to get like some of those things?
Well, they played Texas at home. I mean, that was to their advantage, to a sold-out Pyramid Arena, and they beat them. I mean, that gives you a high no matter what, because Texas won the national championship last year. They competed hard, and that's one of the things that we told the players. I said, they're going to be all over us. They're never going to not go for a ball. They're never not going to compete. They're going to go up every single time, and you have to expect the unexpected, which is one of the things that we've been working on in the drills that we're doing, because we'll take plays off, or we were like, oh, pretty bird, versus staying focused and calling what's going on during those situations and calling people out for it, you know. And so that, to me, falls back on how we plan practice and how we, our expectations for them versus allowing them or expecting them to do it on their own. As much as back in the day that's how it went, it doesn't work like that anymore. We have to put them in the right environment. We have to coach them through the environment. We have to coach them after the environment and after and before and during. But it's okay. That's just what we do.
Going off of that, so what's the mindset going into the game Friday against New Mexico State?
You know, we're going to take one match at a time. We're going to be ready to play Long Beach State because they're going to present their challenges to us, and then we have to be ready from New Mexico State. But we have talked about them as a staff and what's going on over there, and they're just really different in what they're doing. It's not a typical Michael Jordan team in terms of it's not a traditional ball here. Their players are running different routes, which is good. One of the things I've shared with our players is everything that we've gone through is prepared us for the next. So we won't be ready to play New Mexico State if we don't play a Long Beach State first, because they're going to do things that are just a little bit different in terms of the pace that they're going to run and set the ball and throwing it around and, you know, looking at tool and wipe. We haven't played a team yet that will do it the way Long Beach State is doing it.